Tell me the album that changed your life.
First, I want to say that that's a very dramatic question to ask of someone. But the first thing that came to mind was the album Plans by Death Cab for Cutie. One of my favorite albums of all time. I remember specific moments of my life in high school where that album provided something that I needed. And I can't even begin to describe what it done for me, but yeah, Plans. This was kind of like one of the first albums in full that I had bought, so there's a little bit of an attachment there that it was my own money, you know, so you're gonna make it worth it, I guess. Each song, your favorite ones didn't strike you so quickly and so hard on the first few listens, but then as you lived with them, you realize they began to burrow even further and further into your head, and I think that there's something about a certain melody that if you take a long enough time to carve it out and to design it, then that's kind of directly related to how long that melody can stay fresh to a listener. And you know, whatever melody you come up with off the top of your head in 5 seconds is probably going to be extremely catchy, but will die pretty quick. And I think that Ben Gibbard and the guys in Death Cab do such a great job of is not finding that immediate kind of payoff in the melody, but the melody that you could tell took time to find.
I wish we could open our eyes to see in all directions at the same time. Oh, what a beautiful view. If you were never aware of what was around you, and it is true what you said.
I think from my perspective as a drummer, that's not very often that like you can just play a drum beat and then somebody's like, I know what song that is. There are obviously some iconic drum beats that have been written, but I feel like that album has a lot.
Squeaky swings and tall grass. The longest shadows ever.
It was one of the first bands I got into that melody was so important to them, but also lyrically it was so like refreshing and such an interesting way of, oh, I've heard that being said before, but never in that way. Yes, he's talking about love or whatever emotion he's trying to speak further on, but he's saying it in a completely different way that it makes sense to me, but I'd never heard it that way. And you get the feeling that everything's been done before, and then you hear a Death Cab record and you realize, oh, there's so much more to be, you know, talked about and places you can go. So that's something that definitely influenced my songwriting.
Love of mine, someday you will die, but I'll be close behind. They'll follow you into the dark, no blinding light or tunnels to gates of white, just our hands clasped so tight, waiting for the hint of a spark.
Is there any one song from the album that will stay with you that we could play?
What Sarah said, probably. The chord progression is beautiful. Just lyrically, it's like I can listen to it over and over, and I feel like pick out something different each time, or connect to something different every time. It's a beautiful song.
A tiny branch of and I ration my breaths as I said to myself that I'd already taken too much today. As each descending peak on the LCD took you a little farther away from me, away from me. Amongst the vending machines and year-old magazines, in a place where we only say goodbye, it sung like a violent wind that our memories depend on a faulty camera in our minds. And I knew that you were truth I would rather lose than to have never lain beside it all. And I looked around at all the eyes on the ground as the TV entertained itself. 'Cause there's no comfort in the waiting room, just nervous paces bracing for bad news. And then the nurse comes round and everyone with their heads. But I'm thinking of what Sarah said, that love is watching someone die. So who's gonna watch you So who's gonna watch you So who's gonna watch you
Thank you to Josh and Tyler from 21 Pilots for telling us about the album that changed their life. It was Death Cab for Cutie. What Sarah Said is the name of the track you just heard. The album was Plans. Came out in 2005, 13 years ago. Gorgeous. Such a great insight into how they end up making the music that they do today. And there's 3 more of them this week, folks. Right, 5 minutes past 8.